Howdy, howdy, and welcome to episode 124 of the Eyes Free Sports podcast. This is your host, Greg Lindberg. On this episode, our guest is an Army veteran who served for nearly 30 years, including a number of years after going blind while serving. And he has also gone on to a highly accomplished career in endurance sports, running, cycling, hiking, skiing. Just such an amazing guy and so humble. You would never know he's done so many things in his life. So let's go ahead and hit the trail now and get hiking toward episode 124 of the Eyes Free Sports podcast. Okay, so my guest here on this episode of the podcast is Major Retired Ivan Castro. And Ivan is a highly talented endurance athlete, adaptive athlete, had a very, very unique military career, and just an all-around great guy. Ivan, welcome to the podcast.
Greg, thank you for having me, and thank you for those kind words of talented and an athlete.
Absolutely, yeah. And I did want to mention to the listeners that you and I did have the chance to meet in person actually a couple times now, because you also live here in Orlando as well. So it's always cool to connect with, potential and future podcast guests in person.
Yeah, it was great. We had a great time. Absolutely.
Definitely look forward to more of that. So why don't we kick things off here, Ivan, just going way back to your early years as far as where you were born and your childhood.
Yeah, I was born in Hoboken, New Jersey back in 67. So I'm 57 years old now. And lived in the New Jersey area, Jersey City, West New York, New Jersey, a little bit in New York and Bronx, and back to Jersey City, and then Puerto Rico from the age of 12. And once I was in Puerto Rico, I did my high school and there, and I did middle school, high school, and 4 years of college in Puerto Rico, and that's when after that I joined the Army.
Gotcha. I see. And then before we get into your military career, just in terms of sports and recreation, so I think I had read that you did get into like cross country, track and field at a pretty young age, right?
Yeah, I did some sports in high school. I went to a military high school with a junior ROTC program, and that there I did some cross country and track and field there. A little bit of swimming, but it wasn't until I got into college that I entered college on a collegiate scholarship as an athlete. I was on a track and field team there and on a cross country team there as well.
Right, I see. So as far as your military career, talk to me about kind of what inspired you to go into the Army to enlist.
Yeah, I come from a family of service. My uncles and cousins and my brother served, and it was something that I've always enjoyed, that teamwork, that camaraderie, and wanting to be part of a big family, and the military, when you come to see it, home is where you're at, and family's who you're with, and when we're deployed, we're one big family when you're in the Army. And I did it also because I believe in this country, and I believe in liberty and democracy and freedom. So I want my kids and my grandkids to be able to have that same opportunities of living here in the U.S. And sadly, in the world we live in, it's sometimes you have to be willing to pay a price. And going to that, my son is currently serving on active duty in special operations. So despite me getting blind, when I talk to people and they find out that I was injured and I lost my sight in Iraq, the first question they ask me is, knowing what you know now, would you let one of your kids join the military? And they're surprised to hear that my son is currently serving on active duty.
Right. Interesting. So as far as your military career, just talk to me about kind of your early career, your initial jobs in the first few years of service.
Yeah. So I came in the Army in 1988, and I served, in the National Guard was when I was in college in Puerto Rico, and then in 1990 I went out to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and I was in the infantry there. From there, I moved over to another unit there at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and that was a Pathfinder detachment. And then after that, in 92, then went to Desert Storm, Shield. In 92, I went to Germany and I was part of a long range surveillance unit and got to go to Bosnia and came back from that. I was in Fort Benning, Georgia, in Ranger Regiment, a Ranger unit. And I was a drill sergeant also in Fort Benning, Georgia for infantry. And went back to Germany and the same unit I was in before. That time I got to go to Bosnia for a second time and Kosovo and Albania, those deployments there. I had a multiple of training deployments, but those were peacekeeping missions. And then went to Special Forces at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And I went through the course, the Special Forces qualification course. And well, first I went through the assessment and selection, and then I went to the qualification course. And I became a Special Forces, a weapons sergeant, and deployed all over South and Central America, a lot to Colombia on a war on drugs, and came back in 2004. I became an officer and I went to the 82nd Airborne Division, and I was a lieutenant there, deployed to Afghanistan with the 82nd Airborne Division. I was an infantry officer there and came back, and then I took over a scout and sniper platoon, and we deployed to Iraq. And it was on September 2nd, 2006, when I sustained life-threatening injuries from an engagement that we had with the enemy, and I was injured by a mortar round. I lost two guys in my unit, so I sustained a number of injuries throughout my body. And that engagement, that combat engagement, left me totally blind, among a plethora of other injuries throughout my body.
Sure. So a lot of kind of physical injuries as well.
Yeah.
And so were you like unconscious, or what was kind of your state after that happened?
Oh, when I got in at that time of the when we came under fire, under attack, I had my right eye was completely enucleated out of my face.
Mm.
A fragment went into my left eye and damaged the retina and the optic nerve. My nose was totally shattered into my face. It was broken. My right cheekbone was broken in pieces, in like small pieces. My right cheekbone had to be replaced. I had a bilobal aneurysm of the left vertebral artery. That's pretty significant injury. If that would have been, just less than a centimeter, it would have. If that artery would have bursted, I wouldn't be here right now. I had collapsed lungs, amputated right index finger. My right deltoid was completely blown off. I had an open bone fracture of my left humerus bone, so the bone was sticking out on my left bicep. My ulnar medium nerve was damaged. I had a pulmonary embolism, and my entire body was just um, open wounds throughout from head to toe. So.
Wow.
But I was very blessed that I had, my guys immediately jumped on a rooftop and put me undercover, and we had great medical a great medical package, a great medical team on the ground, and they immediately got to work and were able to stop the bleeding. Put tourniquets on all my limbs and called in a medevac and got me out of there to um, like a cache, and they were able to keep me alive. So I was from there. I was medevac to from Balad to Germany, from Germany to Walter Reed, from Walter Reed to Bethesda, and spent about 6 months in the hospital. And for about 4 weeks, almost a month, I was on life support. And
Wow.
I ended up having to see a lot of different, medical departments in the hospital to keep me alive. It was just an amazing effort by the naval team there at Bethesda Naval Medical Center in Bethesda, Maryland. Yeah, they did a great job.
Sure, sure. And I'm curious, just in terms of that recovery, what kept you driven? What kept you motivated to keep pushing forward?
Yeah, well, you can imagine, you you get blown up, and I had a concussion, so I was totally out, and so they kept me pretty well sedated for a long, long time, you know. So I really I knew what happened, when I finally when they lowered the sedation, and I was coming out of it. I had swelling in the brain as well. So they when I finally came to, uh, I could recall, thank God, the the moments right before, the second before I was blown up, and when you're unconscious and and you're sedated, you hear things and you make out things, but you really can't. Um, you don't have all of the pieces of that puzzle. You need people to tell you what happened, to put it all together. You know, it's from the time I was blown up all the way to the time I came to. It was like little over a month. And try
Sure.
to put all the pieces together of what has happened in your life. So many things.
Yeah. Uh,
But that was pretty devastating of hearing the news that I was blinded. When you get that news and you're in a hospital bed and they tell you, hey, this is what happened to you. You're blown up in combat, and now you're left blinded for the rest of your life. It takes some time to process that. It's not something that comes easily. You know, it takes some time to process that. We everybody lives in a bubble, and what did I know about blindness other than I saw people walk with a dog or a cane? I knew nothing about blindness. So the first thing was getting all the information I could about not only my blindness but my other injuries. It was a lot to take in. So
right.
that took some time. And then you go through all that phases of denial and grief and pushing away the Lord, or if you're a person of faith. And it took some time. It really didn't sink in until like at the end of October, like the last days in October. When you go through these periods of phantom vision that you believe you're seeing something. Your mind is like playing tricks on you. That you think you're seeing something, but you're really not, right? It's an image that you got in your head. It took some time, but um, my first goal was to run a marathon after I was blinded.
Hmm.
I could barely stand on my feet for 2 seconds. It took three people to get me to stand on my feet for just 2 seconds, and that was exhausting. You know, And here I came, and I made this promise that I was going to run the Marine Corps Marathon, the next year. So I immediately turned my bed into this jungle gym with bands and and started eating, right. I
Yeah.
had, when I was blowing up and I was sedated, I had lost so much weight. And when I came to, I was just eating everything they were putting in front of me and not being able to move or exercise. I was just still laid up in bed. So it took some discipline on part of my mouth, and every minute I could was continuously working on my occupational therapy and my physical therapy, and asking more time, more on the recumbent bike or the upright bike, and being able to walk again. But that, going from laying in bed, you know, to running a marathon, it really took an entire year to get there.
Wow.
And I was very blessed. I had a great team of doctors and providers. I had a great medical team throughout, and my family was a big part of that as well. And friends, and I made some friends, that took on that mission of helping me run that marathon. And believe it or not, I did. I ran that marathon. I did the Army 10 miler first, was my first race. And then like a week later, I ran the Marine Corps marathon. And I ran it with a Boston qualifying time. I crossed the finish line with a Boston qualifying time. So, after running that one, I immediately got hooked up on that running bug, and just kept on running. And it came a point that I was almost running a marathon almost every weekend.
Mm,
Uh,
amazing.
yeah.
And you had never run a marathon or any distance of that length prior to that, right?
I ran a marathon once in Puerto Rico, but it was just on my own. My uncle, that distance, 26.2. But I was, younger. I was in college, but, not after coming, under the conditions that I was in.
Oh, yeah. That's just absolutely remarkable. So just to kind of wrap up your military career, so you actually continued to serve in the military, in spite of becoming disabled, which is pretty unusual from what I understand. So talk to me about kind of how that all worked.
Yeah, so since I was in special operations, my commanders, knew who I was and what had happened, and everything. They really told me, Ivan, whatever you want to do, wherever you want to go, just let us know, and we're going to support you. They, when I was in bed in a Bethesda, they drafted paperwork for me to sign to get me out of the army while I was there in the bed, in a hospital bed. And I looked at them and I said, "No, I'm not signing these papers. Like, you're taking, here I am blown up, and now you're going to take away the thing that I love the most is to serve, right?" And I'm like,
Sure.
"No, I'm not doing that.
Mm,
I want to stay on active duty." And everybody was looking at me like, "No, you're crazy. You don't know what you're talking about." And my commanders came to see me, and I said, "I want to stay on active duty, and I want to continue to serve in whatever capacity." And I wasn't going to just stay on active duty and sit around and do nothing. I wanted to serve and continue to serve, doing something that I love to do, that I could do, and serve, the mission and the nation, and serve, the other folks, whatever I could do for the mission, right? And whatever that was or may be. And my commanders were very supportive and willing to work with me and find something that I could do. And I remained on active duty and went to work every day like everyone else, and worked out, and I did everything like every other soldier did. Obviously, I needed some help, but they were there to help me. I had a team, and in doing so, my unit, they treated me. My commanders treated me like any other officer. They didn't cut me no slack. I even went to a military school, the captain's career course to become a captain. And I just had a great group of instructors, great leaders, my peers, subordinates, mentors, and I was able to stay in 10 more years on active duty. And that was special. That was great.
Oh yeah,
I was
that's. I think I'd read that there may be two other blind folks that kind of have that same in that same category, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, after I was there was another two guys that remained on active duty. Um, Joe Bogart and Scott Smiley, and they were in different units, throughout the army, and they continue to serve. Yeah.
Wow,
So that's,
wow,
being able to stay in was something special. It was a lot of work. Don't get me wrong. It required a lot from my family, from me, and my command, and everybody else.
wow, amazing. So you did serve. Was it 28 years total?
A total of 28 years. Yeah.
Sure, sure. Wow. So yeah, just a little more on kind of your sports and athletic pursuits. So I know you mentioned the marathon. I know you mentioned the 10-miler race. Any other highlights you'd like to mention?
Yeah, it was for me, anytime I did an event, it was like I wanted to do something bigger, tougher, something a lot more. I wanted a bigger challenge to do, right? A bigger adventure, something more. And it was, people thought that I was on a suicide mission. So if it was a 10 miler, then it was half marathon or marathon. And then I started running, one marathon back, one after another, after another, after another. And then I took up cycling, tandem cycling, and I did that. And I cycled across America, I cycled across Europe. Then it was, you know, trying to do triathlons. I did a couple of those. I did a sprint, Olympic, a half. Never did a full. Yeah, I got the opportunity to go to the South Pole, to be part of a team to represent the U.S. It was four injured service members from the U.S., four from the UK, and a team that was made up of two Canadians and two Aussies. And these three teams, we all, we're a nonprofit. We all try to race to the South Pole, and that's where I got to meet Prince Harry. But I did some other things. I summited Kilimanjaro. I walked El Camino de Santiago. So I walked across Spain over 550 miles.
Mm,
I ran with the bulls. Yeah, I do a lot of things. I skydive, scuba dive. There was nothing that I didn't do or couldn't do. Then um, then one of the biggest things that I you know attempt to do was a through hike of the Pacific Crest Trail, and that right there was pretty tough. Um,
mm.
Obviously, I ran five of the six major marathons. The only one I couldn't get into was Tokyo. It's so hard to get into Tokyo. But I ended up running over 60 marathons. You know,
Wow.
I got to run across the Sahara Desert, the toughest foot race in the world. So I skied to the South Pole, which is the coldest desert in the world, and I got to run across the Sahara Desert, which is the warmest, the hottest desert in the world. So I got to do that. But really, the Pacific Crest Trail was by far the toughest thing that I've ever done. It really made me humble, and I learned a lot of myself, about myself, and it's just something unique and special. It's hard to describe, to walk from Mexico to Canada, 2,653 miles, and that's straight. That's not even counting coming on and off the trail to resupply or, rest or make a phone call or get water. It's
Right.
that's extremely special. That was special.
And how long did that trail take you?
It took us 8 months.
Mm,
We weren't able. we were, and I'm being very honest, we were not able to walk every mile of it, um, due to the heat in some places, the lack of water in others, due to fire. Um, so there were places that, we didn't get to walk all of it, but we walked a great portion of it. Yeah. We got to touch both ends,
Right.
the
Right.
southern terminus and the northern terminus. Yeah.
Mm, incredible. I know
Yeah.
you did mention scuba diving. Definitely curious about any adaptations or techniques as a blind scuba diver.
No, I just put my hand on another diver, and just dive right beside another someone else,
Hmm.
just running or walking, or just I just grabbed onto the person right next to me.
Right.
Uh,
Right. Pretty
yeah,
simple.
yeah. I didn't grab their regulator. I didn't pull that out of their mouth, but
Right.
of their vest or something. Just
Mm.
water skied. Obviously, that's how we met each other. I did some water skiing as well,
Yup.
some stand up water skiing, and I really have made an attempt to do it all, and not to find an excuse, of why not to do something. And so, I always said it, with the right training, the right resources, and the right opportunity, there's nothing that can't be accomplished, right? And I do go to places, and there's people that, no, you can't do this because of liability, or you can't do this because of, you know, uh, they're just narrow-minded. Kayaked on my own on a kayak, and there's so many things, but
Absolutely.
it just you just have to have the will, the desire to do it, right? You have to have someone that's on your team that you could trust, that you trust them, they trust you, and that are willing to go out there and do these things, right? And have fun, right? So, and that's what the way I view it. After being blinded, um, I've come so close to, I lost two guys. So we are so blessed to be alive this second, right? This moment. So I don't know if I have a tomorrow in me. So I live every day like it's my last. I pack so much in a day where, doing things, or I don't say no to any adventure or challenge or any trip, any feat. And I just go for it. I love it.
Right.
I love
Just take
to do
it.
hard things. It makes you resilient. It makes you tough, mentally tough, you know. And I've got three kids. Like I said, I got my oldest is serving. I got a daughter who's she's about to turn 13, and I got a 6-year old. So, I have to be, not only, am I their dad, but I want my kids to be proud of me. Not to see me as someone that can't do anything. So, I do everything with my kids. And we crawl on the ground, make tunnels, take the um, blankets or boxes or whatever it is, play hide and seek. We go to the parks here in Orlando, and we go. I get on all the rides, the big ones and the small ones.
Yep.
I do everything with my kids. So
Right. You're a great dad, I can tell.
yeah,
I did want to ask you, as far as the guides, obviously you've had many guides over the years, as far as your races, as far as competing in various events and activities. And what would you say the keys are to an effective relationship with a guide?
yeah. And you know what, Greg? You say, and I've said it here. I've done all these things, but none of it could have not happened if I didn't have my guides, right? My guides. And for each event, it takes a special person, right? Not The same person can't do it all. He can, but he's going to get burned out, right?
Right.
That's a big commitment, right? Your guides could run a marathon probably a lot faster than what they're running with me, or and they have to be fast, right? Because I can't get a guide that I'm pulling them, right? So yeah, I get, whether it's in the front of a bike or they're strong riders or they're running or they're skiing or they're swimming or whatever it is, or scuba diving or going to the range and shooting. It doesn't matter. You got to find the right person that has the right frame of mind, mentality, and you guys have to be able to click, right? You got to train together and just do it, right? So it takes a special person to find these people. It takes they have a lot of heart. So nothing that I've done by myself. Everything I have to give thanks and recognize that if it wasn't for these guides and these folks that are as crazy as I am, then it's not going to happen. So
Right. Right. Absolutely.
you have to have that chemistry between you and that person. I mean, that person, if they're running, they're looking at where they're going, where you're going to go, where you're going to plant your feet. They're sure that, hey, you go through your water stops. They're taking water. You're taking water. You got to go use the bathroom. Behind what tree? Behind what car? Put you in a porta potty. Wipe the seat down. These guys are working hard. They are. I mean, and sometimes they don't. They're in the shadows, and they don't want the credit, but they need to be recognized.
No doubt. And yeah, that's such a great point too about kind of sharing some of those personal moments, personal experiences. Trust is such a big part of it too, right?
Mm-hmm. You do. You gotta trust them. Yeah, you definitely do. You put in your life in their hands.
Absolutely. Yep. So I know you did co-author a book called Fighting Blind. I'm definitely curious what inspired you to write that, and just talk to me about that book in general.
Yeah, after going around and doing all these crazy adventures, I was asked to do a lot of speaking. And after I come off the stage, everybody would say, "Man, you should write a book. You should write a book." And I was like, "Nah, what am I going to write about?" And they said, "Your life, everything that you've done, your drive, your resilience, your mental toughness and everything." And after so many people telling me that I should write a book, a friend of mine put me in contact with a writer, very famous writer. His name is Jim DeFelice. He actually wrote American Sniper and a number of other bestsellers. Everything he touches, he just amazing person. We become very close friends, and we sat down and wrote Fighting Blind. It was a big feat to take, and we did it. Him and I, we worked together. We wrote my book. It was published November 16th, 2016, and yeah, it's still out there in stores.
Sure. And how
So
long did that take you to work on that project and finish that?
it took us 5 years because right in the middle of that project, Chris Kyle, the Navy SEAL from American Sniper, got killed. So my writer, who was very close with Chris Kyle, he had to take a break of writing my book and do a number of interviews, and he was part of also American Sniper, the movie. So
Wow. Amazing. I know you've been interviewed, I think, by like ESPN, a lot of the major news networks. Any big interviews stand out, or any other folks you've met? I think you met some of the first ladies over the years.
yeah, I've been very fortunate to meet a number of people at different events. Got to meet um, uh, Bush, George Bush, George Washington Bush, GW there on several occasions. He actually wrote me a letter, and we got to spend some time one on one together. And I got to meet Michelle Obama uh, twice. Got to meet Ross Perot.
Hmm.
I got to meet the Queen, Queen Elizabeth.
Wow.
Yeah, got to meet William and Kate very briefly. The Duke, obviously Prince Harry. Spent a lot of time with Prince Harry on not only on a trip to the South Pole, but training and some other projects that he asked me to be part of for mental health. I was very honored to do that. And just a number of celebrities, uh, bands and things like that.
Sure.
So yeah, very very blessed to met some cool people along the way.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah. And,
Foo Fighters, guys from Three Doors Down.
oh,
Uh, yeah, I got to meet Red Hot Chili Peppers and just a number of people. A lot of congressmen and senators and a lot of general officers throughout my career and admirals.
right. Right. I'm also curious as far as organizations you've been involved in the blindness space and maybe the military space. Anything you want to mention there?
Yeah, no, I've just a plethora of nonprofits. I took on speaking for nonprofits, and that got a little bit overwhelming. Um, Step Up for Soldiers, the Semper Fi Fund, Team America, Challenge Athlete Foundation. Um, oh my God, Thomas the Tower, uh, Building Home for Heroes, uh, Home for Our Troops. Oh my God, Walking with the Wounded. There's just so many great nonprofits out there. The Special Forces Charitable Trust, the Special Forces Association, the Green Beret Foundation, Operation Healing Forces. I mean, there's so many great nonprofits out there that I've been able to be a part of, helping them out, and they've helped me and some of my other friends. So there's so many nonprofits out there that are doing just great things still to this day.
Sure. And I know you had mentioned ACB, NFB, BVA, some of the blindness groups as well,
Yeah,
right?
ATP, the BVA, you know, so there's those as well, the NFB, and there's a number of those as well that are out there in the blind community. Yeah, Lighthouse for the Blind, very happy with them helping me out, as well. I'm
Absolutely.
very, we're very blessed here. It's having traveled around the world, we are very blessed to be here and live in this country. And can it be better? Absolutely. Could it be worse? Definitely. But
No doubt.
we're very.
Yep. Cool. And then before we wrap up this episode, just wanted to give you the chance to offer any final words of encouragement or motivation just based on your life.
I would say one, uh, everybody should live by their 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 values, their ethics, their morals, their principles. You should live always. Don't procrastinate. Live life to the fullest. You don't know. We all know two things, right? We're gonna die and we have to pay taxes.
Yep.
Uh, those are the two things for sure, right? We got to pay taxes and we're gonna die. Taxes, we know when they come around. We just don't know when we're gonna die, right? And so, time is to don't waste time. Don't procrastinate. Go out there, live life to the fullest. Um, Enjoy life. Be grateful. Um, Always be grateful for what you have, not for what you don't have, and just stop and realize how blessed we are. And being that I served in the military, let us not forget those who pay the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. Don't take this freedom for granted, you know. And so there's a lot of folks who served before, during, and who will serve in front of us, in an all volunteer force. So be grateful for all of those who serve, all of our law enforcement who keep us safe here, our medical professionals, our teachers, right? And yeah, just do your best, have fun, enjoy.
Absolutely. Great words. Great way to end this episode. And again, we've been visiting with Ivan Castro, a retired major. And Ivan, really, really thanks so much for your time. Just thank you for your service, everything that you've done in terms of your nonprofit work. And thanks for being willing to share your story here on Eyes Free Sports.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Greg. And I look forward in us getting together again and having a bite to eat. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. Alrighty. Again, really appreciate it, Ivan.
All right. Take care, buddy.
To hear more episodes of the Eyes Free Sports podcast and to subscribe, search for Eyes Free Sports on your favorite podcast platform or visit eyesfreesports.com. Be sure to follow the Eyes Free Sports podcast at facebook.com/eyesfreesports and on Twitter at Eyes Free Sports.